Published 0547 Est, 15 November 2017. Updated 0839 Est, 15 November 2017. A bitter feud between an oil broker and his foul-mouthed city boss boiled over into an office brawl, an employment tribunal has heard. Sebastian France, who earned around £500,000 a year, came to blows in the office with his aggressive manager Danny Fenn before a row over a £50,000 bonus. Mr. France had regularly been called AC and fat by his boss at Spectron Services, and Mr. Fenn was recorded telling him to F off home and that he was a fingwas and a fat lump. Mr. Fenn wrote Butters slang for ugly on Mr. France's wage slip and posh TT on his bonus letter, the employment tribunal was told. After a row over his bonus, Mr. France quit in disgust and started legal proceedings. He has now won an unfair dismissal claim and could get a five-figure payout. An employment tribunal has heard how Danny Fenn abused oil broker Sebastian France left as a campaign of astonishing taunts was set out in an unfair dismissal case. In conversation with another member of the team, Mr. Fenn suggested that if Mr. France quit he would make him work his notice period. When the team member suggested that Mr. France might try to record stuff or be slippery somehow, Mr. Fenn replied "Ilch in the sea." Following an office bust-up which left Mr. France, 46, with a bruised chin, Mr. Fenn slashed his bonus from £50,000 to nil, the tribunal was told. Mr. France was offered another job within the company in restoration of £10,000 of his bonus, but he quit and brought an unfair dismissal case. A central London employment tribunal was told that Mr. Fenn, head of the oil desk, began abusing Mr. France from around 2012. Spectron admitted to the tribunal that Mr. France was unfairly dismissed because of Mr. Fenn's verbal insults and abuse. But the tribunal ruled that Mr. France's complaints about disability discrimination because of his mental health and that he was subject to detriments for making protected disclosures failed. The oil trading firm is based in the impressive 155 Bishopsgate building in the heart of the city. The tribunal ruled they worked long hours, 11 to 12 hours a day, in a highly competitive, fast-paced and pressurized environment. Shouting and swearing were not uncommon. Mr. Fenn had an aggressive management style and he frequently swore at and showered insults and abuse on those whom he felt were not performing to the level that he expected. He was volatile and prone to lose his temper. Mr. Fenn regularly referred to the claimant as Butters, meaning ugly, posh TT, fat and C. He wrote Butters on the claimant's pay slip in July 2013 and posh TT on his bonus letter in November 2013. From about 2015, Mr. Fenn formed the view that the claimant was not working as effectively as he could be, and he became increasingly rude and abusive towards him. The pair first came to blows in March 2015 when Mr. Fenn began abusing Mr. France after he failed to secure a trade. Details of the culture in the office emerged in a case at Central London Employment Tribunal. Mr. France walked out of the office to try and defuse the situation, but he was chased by Mr. Fenn, who grabbed his shirt to try and stop him leaving. The tribunal stated there was a physical altercation between them, in the course of which the claimant's shirt got ripped near the collar. They were separated by two of their colleagues on the desk. Mr. France began recording abusive incidents in around September 2015 in case he needed to threaten or pursue legal proceedings, the tribunal heard. The pair came to blows on February 23 when Mr. Fenn, who thought Mr. France was lazy, noticed him using his phone instead of working and told him not to take the pee. Mr. France began recording the abuse before Mr. Fenn told him to F off home, called him a fingwas and said they did not need fat lumps. After suspecting Mr. France was filming the rant, Mr. Fenn shouted, "You're the type of bloke who'll sit there and tape someone. I don't give a F, don't give a F. I tell you this now, you will never get a penny off me and you will never get a penny out of the company. You know that I don't give a F what evidence you got." Mr. Fenn then ran around the desk to where Mr. France was sitting and grabbed the phone, before a 15-second struggle broke out. The tribunal said in the course of leaning over Mr. Fenn from behind, the claimant scuffed the side of Mr. Fenn's head. As Mr. Fenn knew that the claimant was recording what was going on, he exaggerated what had happened and is heard saying many times on the tape that the claimant had punched him on the side of the head. Mr. Fenn then turned around and the claimant was still trying to recover his phone. In the course of the struggle, Mr. Fenn's arms were flailing and one accidentally hit the claimant's face in the chin area. Mr. France was left with a small mark to his face, but a police investigation found there was not enough evidence to press charges. Mr. France had been due to receive a bonus of around £50,000 following the incident, but Mr. Fenn instructed bosses to cancel it because he hadn't hit his target. It was decided Mr. France would be given a £10,000 bonus as compromise, but he was shocked and upset by the reduction. He resigned in August last year. A consultant psychiatrist who he went to see found he suffered anxiety due to stress principally coming from one person at work. Spectron admitted to the tribunal that Mr. France was unfairly dismissed because of Mr. Fenn's verbal insults and abuse. But the tribunal ruled that Mr. France's complaints about disability discrimination because of his mental health and that he was subject to detriments for making protected disclosures failed.